Are you feeling a bit congested in your relationship with God? Welcome to the Parable Podcast. I'm your host, Danielle Zapchenk, and today I'd love to share one of my recent messages from our home church. We are walking through a series right now that is on our senses of the human body, and I really jumped in wholeheartedly on smell. I hope you enjoy this message wherever it may find you today. Do you think it is possible to sense God's presence through smell? And if so, are you embodying the aroma of His presence in your life? I've really been looking forward to this message for a while, and so when the speaking team, they divvy up the different topics, and I'm like, I'll take smell, and everyone's like, great, we didn't want that. I was really jazzed about it. But I wanted to know, can you really smell God? And I hope that after we walk through this chat today and the rest of the series, it engages you in a new way and challenges you in your relationship with Him. Scent can bring up a lot of memories and emotions, and it can help us learn our surroundings. I think one of the best places you can hone your scent skills is at the mall. Now, I know it wasn't as cool now as it used to be, but in the 90s, as a teenage girl, this was my jam. And when people found out where I lived in Appleton, Wisconsin, they're like, oh my gosh, you live by the mall? And I'm like, yes. It was a hot thing. So when you walked in, there was just a bouquet of scents. The main door that I usually walked in was right into the food court, and the first scent was Gloria Jeans. We did not get Starbucks in that area, so does anyone remember Gloria Jeans? It was that deep, rich, velvety scent of coffee. And then there was Cinnabon that was on the corner. And Cinnabon, I just learned, they only use a certain cinnamon. It's called Makara cinnamon. It's only made in Sri Lanka. And so that is just wafting through the air. And of course, you smell Subway because you just can smell Subway. It is literally bread wafting through. There is the flame broiled Whopper, okay, my favorite of the fast food chains. And then let's see, as you're walking out of the food court, there was the Great American Cookie Company. And you were hoping that they were giving out samples. It was a good day if they were. And then as you made your way out of the food court, there was Bath and Body Works. Now that was not even in its heyday. And ladies, do you guys remember drenching yourself? Sun-ripened raspberry, cucumber melon. I feel like those were the only two scents you could choose from. So there was that. If I was with my boyfriend that day, he was wearing Adidas Move. And then if you headed to Sam Goody, does everyone remember CDs? Okay, good time. When you took off that plastic, there was just that scent of the static and the plastic. And I'm pretty sure I was getting that day Jock Jams Volume 2. It was a good CD. And then if we finished our day, a perfect day at the mall ended at the movie theater where there was just that buttery popcorn that was wafting through the air. The mall, it's an awesome place, but I'd love for us to think about this sense of smell out of the box a little bit. Are we able to smell God's presence? And I feel like we innately know this because it's everywhere. We just have to be reminded to smell. It's that invigorating scent of a fresh-cut Christmas tree with its sharp, clean aroma of pine needles. It's the warm, buttery fragrance of Olive Garden breadsticks, right? It's that freshly baked bread that beckons you to take a bite. It's the sweet, delicate scent of a rose or the comforting smell of a newborn baby. Maybe it's that smoky essence of a campfire where there's that charred wood and crackling embers that linger into the night's air. It's crisp fallen leaves of autumn with those decaying notes of the earth. Or is it the rejuvenating scent of raindrops after a rainstorm has just passed? Don't you think it's possible with all of that to sense God's presence through smell? And if so, are you embodying the aroma of His presence in your life? I think we just need to celebrate the senses of the human body. This is so crazy that all of our senses allow us to experience the fullness of our world. So what is smell? And how does it actually work? I'm so glad you guys asked, because this is just a part of who we are. It's like we are breathing. We don't think too much about how we smell. And it's all located in our olfactory bulbs. The majority of humans, there's a few of us that don't have these, we have 2 olfactory bulbs. They're at the bottom of our brain and they're above each nasal cavity. Also, fun fact, when we chew, this is also considered smelling retroactively because our mouth and our nasal passages are connected. So when you were younger and your family was driving through the country and you passed a manure farm and your parents said, plug your nose and breathe through your mouth, they were lying to you, okay? You can still smell through your mouth, and now it's just even more gross to think about. The olfactory bulbs receive information about whatever we are smelling, and then they're further processed by our brain, where scent plays a role into our emotions, our memory, and how we learn. Now, emotions and smell, they're stored as one memory, and that is why the fragrance industry is so huge. They are using scents to create in you these feelings, this sense of desire and power and strength, all the way to relaxation. I know this connects with many of you because who here has ever bought essential oils and a diffuser for their home? It's either on your counter now or it's in the back of your closet, right? You purchased that, or maybe even a candle to evoke a sense of calm in your home, hence to regulate your emotions. And then there's memory. By the age of 10, you will have a baseline of smells for the rest of your life that either you love or you hate. My theater teachers in high school, they were married to each other, and they both had a very signature scent. I have no idea what their fragrance was, but 30 years later, I will be walking to the store, and I can hear, not hear, that would be weird. I can sense, God, he's right here. Okay. I can sense what their smell was like, and it is just it brings me back immediately to high school. It's the slightest smell that can trigger memories that are even long forgotten. And then there's learning. If we go back to the beginning of time, people use scent to protect, to hunt, and to perceive their surroundings. And I believe that same instinct is still in us today. If you smell smoke in your home, what do? You just keep on doing what you're doing? No, okay? You go around your house. Did you leave something on the oven? Is it like a fire in your house outside? You figure it out and you check to see what is it? Why? Because you're using that learned scent to protect your home. Do you think it's possible, though, to sense God, His presence in smell? If our smell is that detailed, we can then realize this wasn't just a shot in the dark. He's like, oh, here's a nose. We're going to just figure it out. No, He wanted our nose to be a way to experience our world and His presence through our sense of smell. In 2 Corinthians 2:14, it says, "Yet I am so thankful to God, who always marches us to victory under the banner of the Anointed One. And through us, He spreads the beautiful fragrance of His knowledge to every corner of the earth." The word "yet" at the beginning of that passage gives us, the reader, a clue to know that there is something behind this statement that triggered it. So what was going on in Corinth? Well, the Apostle Paul, he planted so many different churches in very unlikely places. And Corinth was a very transient town. It was a port known for sin and decadence and corruption. And so the author Paul, he deeply cared about these people. And even though they struggled to live out like Jesus day to day, which probably sounds familiar to the most of us, Paul spent a lot of time with them. He sent friends to aid this community, and he wrote many, many tearful letters to them, making sure they understand what was the truth of what God and what did He want to do for them, what He desired for them. Even in the darkest and challenging times of our life, Jesus keeps marching on ahead of us, saying that there is victory with me. His scent is this beautiful fragrance that brings truth. And know that this truth is real. It is because we have a relationship with Him. We now know it is possible to sense His presence, that He is with us even through smell. Now, according to Arnold Zlotnick, he is the president and CEO of Air Scent International. This is a real thing, okay? Olfaction is the most fundamental of all five senses because the brain responds to a fragrance before the other four come into play. Scent branding, it is a real thing. It's in shopping malls like we've seen, and even upscale hotel lobbies. One of the first companies to use scent as a marketing tool was Johnson & Johnson's baby powder. Even Play-Doh successfully trademarked its signature musky vanilla scent fragrance in 2018. And for somebody who's eaten Play-Doh as a child, it does not taste like that, okay? While God is not setting out for any branding deals, the concept, it stays the same. Our brains respond to fragrance first. And I believe that if we go back to our emotions, our memories, and what we've learned from scent, we can absolutely detect the scent of God. So you already know what smells connect with you and ones that completely disgust you. So some really easy ways that we're able to sense God's presence in our life is some of the same qualities as a good fragrance. Number one, longevity. Is it a lasting scent? God's aroma is a lasting scent in our lives, and it doesn't fade, it doesn't dissipate by the end of the day. His presence in our lives is a constant, and one that we can turn to no matter our circumstances. Joshua 1:9 says this, "Be strong and courageous, never be afraid or discouraged, because I am your God, the Eternal One, and I will remain with you. I will stay with you wherever you go." A cheap fragrance, it might smell good on the first spray, but it will not last the hour. And you may find yourself wondering, why is it that you feel like you keep putting like the effort and the time and the energy into things, and they never provide you with something that is lasting, something that is enduring and provides you that benefit? Maybe it's time for you to choose a scent that goes through life's longevity with you. God will remain a constant wherever you go. The second is sillage. It is how far a scent travels. So God is in your home, He's in your workplace, He's within you, He's within talking to your neighbors on the side of the street, driving in your car. He's permeating every area of your life and your heart. And it's traveling with you like how chocolate chip cookies just seem to like linger out of the oven and into the air. On the other opposite end, there's like the yucky smells that keep lingering, kind of like an 8th grade boy's bathroom, like Axe body spray, just like everywhere, okay? So when you have these gross smells that are traveling with you in life, when you have people that are toxic, you're dealing with past hurt that has been unresolved, that gross part of our life, it still travels with us. And what do? We just keep covering it up with different scents, hoping that nobody else is going to figure it out. Or maybe we just don't want anyone else to know. There is something underneath. And the good news is that God's fragrance doesn't allow those things to continue to travel with us once you've given them over to Him. He wants us to know that He's there. And there's this deep fragrance of sillage willing to travel with us throughout life. Third is complexity. It is these different layered notes. So when you properly taste wine, you're supposed to sniff it and bring the glass to your nose, inhale deeply, and identify the wine's aromas. Now, do I do that? No. Okay, but the reason that they do that is because there's smell that affects our brains and how we process flavor in our brain. God's scent in our life is not one-dimensional, but it has so many different layers. And I think that's one of my favorite things about God as I'm getting older. Like, there is always something new to learn about, something to discover. We can't even begin to understand the different notes of fragrance within Him. It's grace, and it's kindness, and it's gentleness, and it flows over us like a summer breeze. If you've been feeling stuck lately, or you feel like you can't sense Him in your life, I would ask, Are you congested, right? Hypothetically, of course, if you're actually congested, please go see an allergist, all right? But we've all been there. We've all had a sickness or like just feel like stuffed up, where that congestion truly affects not only our smell, but our other senses too. Congestion reduces our lives down to one note or nothing at all. And maybe you have been living your life one note for quite some time and are just used to the same day in, day out kind of life. And God's presence wants to bring you into all of that intimacy of wonder and hope and glory. Not just now, but every single day. We lead lives specifically in this American culture that push us to go, 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 drive more, work harder, moving at all costs. But God is calling us to be different, to just pay attention, to allow yourself to sense, to fully inhale and breathe out. That's all it takes to sense God's presence in our lives, all of these aromas. So if it's possible to sense God's presence through smell, how are you embodying the aroma of his presence in your life? After Paul is expressing the beauty of God's fragrance, he goes on to write this. In a turbulent world where people are either dying or being rescued, we are the sweet smell of the anointed to God our Father. To those who are dying, they smell the stench of death in us. And to those that are being rescued, we are the unmistakable scent of life. Who is worthy of this calling? There's always this cause and effect, right? And because of God's fragrance in our life, we get to embody, we get to live out God in our day-to-day. So remember what was happening in 2 Corinthians. This is like a baby church starting out in one of the most challenging, self-absorbed cultures, and they are struggling. They are questioning the church. There's false teachers that are just telling them wrong information, and they're left wondering, is this Jesus thing, is this really legitimate? And it kind of is stinking. It's gross. It smells like a lingering porta potty on day 4 of Lollapalooza, right? It's 90 degrees. It really can sense it. We are just like the Corinthians, though, wondering, does this even matter? When we smell the things around us that are just so bad, like does this whole church, does this relationship with God, does it matter in my life? Embodiment is one part of our mission here at Westridge. How can we embody God's radical love in all aspects of our life, in our relationships, in our passions, in our priorities? Are they aligned with what God has desired for each one of us? When people look or smell your life, do they sense God? In a turbulent world that we are still in today, where people are either dying or being rescued, he wants us to use that sweet smell, that aroma of the Father, God. So how can we embody aroma in our life? Well, just like Corinthians, embodiment is something that you can never attain. It's like something that you're always constantly learning. You don't just check it off one day. It's a constant process of growth that allows you to become more well-balanced in your relationship with him. When we embody Jesus, we become the unmistakable scent of life. We are worthy of his calling. So we start to first fully embody God in everything that we do for ourselves, and they're ever used to talk to people. I don't know if you heard, it's an election year, all right? And I'm sure many of you are like, oh no, oh my gosh, she's gonna go there. But some of you, I know, even when I hear that, I immediately go into defense mode, right? But that completely captures my point. I personally feel like the scent of death is amplified every 4 years. This intensity of defending our view rather than having a safe dialogue to share ideas and to have conversation. Think of these scents as warning bells screaming at you like, stop, okay? Just take a pause and ask yourself, why am I communicating like this? What's going on in here? Am I embodying Jesus in this moment? It's a tough one because we are human and it's really hard to harness it. But the scent of life, though, is quite the opposite. is one that envelops us with this sweet smell of hope, the joy in championing others, to cheering them on and encouragement, one that chooses to listen rather than argue. And I don't know about you, but I want to lead a life that smells great, right? That's cozy, that's like a welcoming home where you just want to sit at the table and linger with all of those different scents and great conversation. You just don't want to leave. And ultimately what that is, it's a distinct smell of our Father Jesus. Are you embodying the aroma of his presence in your life? To really take this idea home, this really isn't a list of things you have to do. It's really just simple. It's just smelling. And for those of us who have experienced trauma, one of the techniques that you can help reduce your anxiety and regulate your nervous system is to use grounding smells. And I would love to ask you this week to find a smell that really connects with you, something that you truly love, and just sit with God. And you might say, Danielle, this is a little wackadoo for me. That's fine. But, however, if you are feeling a bit congested in your relationship with him, or you feel like the scent of the world that you hang out in is really the scent of death lately, this may be something helpful to help you focus in on just one of those senses to open up your heart and your nose to him more fully. So the good news of the Corinthian church is that they weren't perfect. That's the good news. But yet, God did not ridicule them for messing up or losing faith or slacking on certain areas of life. No. He was the one that just wanted to hold them to his foundations, to let them know the truth and the beauty that he keeps marching ahead of us. He keeps marching in victory in what Jesus did on that cross. And because of what Jesus did for each one of us. It's why the truth of the Word of God continued to spread beyond Corinth and so many different places across the entire world, further than Paul could have ever imagined when he wrote this. There are many scents referred to in the Bible that are used for holy and sacred moments. And one of the holy and sacred moments for me is my friend Erin's house. To me, it smells like fall and roasted pecans. I hope you smelled it in the lobby when you came in today. When I asked her the other day, what do you use in your house? She's like, I guess I really never thought about it too much. But for me, that scent, I feel deep in my soul. I feel like it triggers that I'm safe, I'm loved, and I'm welcome. It reminds me of so many precious memories of goodness, and faithfulness, and family, and I know I will always feel seen there. And for those of us in person today, I hope you sense that when you walk out, because God wants to do the same for you. He wants to be that scent, that he's safe. He wants you to know that you are loved and that you are always welcome with him. It's up to you, right? Do you think that you can sense God and his presence through smell? And are you embodying that aroma in your life? He's a God that uses all things for his glory, to remind us of his goodness. And we have the opportunity, we all have the opportunity, to be that unmistakable scent of life, worthy of his calling to spread love and to Jesus every corner of the earth. I know I want to be a part of that kind of love. I really hope that you are thinking about smell in a brand new way and your senses just really open up this week. I feel like it is an opportunity for us to discover so much more of God in our everyday life. If you enjoyed this message or you love the Parable Podcast, please spread the word about it. If you want to show your support for the Parable Podcast, simply just share it with a friend. Every Wednesday, we are back with some amazing Parable stories to share. You can connect with me by simply visiting DanielleZapchenk.com for details. And here are 2 reflection questions from our message today. Number 1, if you had to smell the aroma of your life, what do you feel it smells like on the best day and on the worst? Number 2, what is one scent you can use to ground your time and connect with Jesus? That way, when you smell it out in public, you are reminded of him. That's it for today. I appreciate you spending time with me. Remember to use your nose this week, and I am sure you will be surprised wherever God shows up this week. We'll see you next time on the Parable Podcast.